Dom, it's a night at the opera.
You know it. Night at the Opera, classic Marx Brothers.
Yes, and this is your pick. So, and go ahead
This
and
is
give
my
that.
pick. I got to tell you, like, I can't believe it's taken us this long to do a Marx Brothers movie. I
Yeah.
feel like I was raised on the Marx Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Marx Brothers, Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, these classic comedy teams whose comedy genetics you see to this day.
Oh my God. Yeah, they're so imitated. It's people can't help but imitate some of the stylistic form of their comedy. It's just classic stuff. And
But watching this movie, Lisa and I were saying, like, you can see Monty Python
oh yeah.
taking from these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I no, I see so many modern day comedians that you can tell they studied them, they looked at them, they were influenced by them. I mean, they're funny. To this day, they're still funny. And
Hmm.
with all the time that has gone by, what they did, it was clever, it was funny, it just worked. And I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this one again. It's been a few years, so it was fun rewatching it. But yeah, I love it. So um, if you want to go ahead and give some little,
So it's funny, like you know, for the majority of Marx Brothers movie, like the plot is incidental.
oh yeah, absolutely,
This is the first movie they did with MGM,
right,
and it marked a change in that this is their first movie with an actual coherent plot. Previous to this, there was like a sort of a plot, but they
yeah,
just let the Marx Brothers go wild and do their thing.
yeah, which they do in every movie, even this one.
Even this one, I mean, it's in there. But for a night at the opera, there is there is an opera company, obviously traveling the world, and there's a male star and a female star. The male star is a complete jerk,
Yeah,
as is traditional.
yeah,
He's
oh yeah,
after the female lead, who is already in love with someone else who is also a great opera singer.
yeah,
And the Marx Brothers intervene
huh,
to not only help the romance, but to help this up and coming tenor uh, get the lead part
yeah,
and get rid of the jerk that is currently the lead.
right. Which they often have like good villains that are like they're patently evil. They're just they're people that are jerks. And the Marx Brothers themselves, they're always a little bit shady themselves.
Oh,
But
a
they,
little bit
but
shady. They are the shysterest comedy troupe that could possibly be put to film.
oh yeah. But the thing about them, even though a lot of times they're up to a little bit of crooked shenanigans, at the same time, they're always kind of still lovable. I mean, you
Oh,
look at
yes.
you look at Harpo there behind me, and he's the one that's mute. He in all of his movies he chose not to speak. He he's known for playing the harp, but he's kind of like the silent clown, which that's his shtick. And they all had a little thing going on, and his was always that he just never spoke. But he's like this lovable, almost like childlike in many
Hmm.
ways.
Yep.
And it's always really funny. Like there's one routine they do where he's like stealing silver in a house, and Groucho's like, hey, like you can't be doing that. Don't be, and he starts looking like he's kind of, and he goes, you feel bad about it, don't you? And he nods, and some silver starts like falling out of his coat, and so he goes, well, you're gonna do better, and he goes, and he's nodding his head, and and he says something else to him, like, and the next thing you know, he drops some more silver, and he's like, and he's just like I said, he's a lovable rogue, and he's constantly chasing woman around the place too. That's his other thing. But
So,
yeah, like
so,
it's
so a few things I had to reacquaint myself with because it had literally been decades. I think maybe 20 years since I've seen any
really,
Marx Brothers
really,
movie.
wow, really.
It's been a while. So a few things I had to confirm again. These are actual brothers.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, for
They
sure.
they they are all related.
Yeah.
I think there's a total of seven of them.
Well, the main ones that I am really familiar with are Zeppo, Harpo. Now, here's the
Chico.
other thing, and this is a controversial thing, but I have always called Chico Chico. Apparently, there's a whole thing about, um, and most people were calling Chico Chico. One time on a talk show, Groucho corrected somebody on the show and said we actually called him Chico.
Huh.
And yeah, and he was all the Marx Brothers loved woman and loved partying and chasing woman, but apparently he was well known as being a ladies' man.
Huh.
So it was
That does not
actually
surprise me.
apparently the Marx Brothers and people who knew him closely called him Chico. But I
Huh.
think it's funny because now, everybody is so into like correct pronunciations and things like that nowadays. And a lot of times pronunciations end up changing over time of like familiar ones
Hmm.
because people will say, well, oh, that's not the way it was supposed to be pronounced. So there's a big thing now, and they're saying, well, the Marx Brothers, correctly called him Chico, but to me, he's forever going to be known as Chico.
Yep.
So I just had to get that part out. But yeah, Groucho, Chico, Harpo, and Zeppo, those are the ones that I'm really familiar with
Yep.
in the act.
There's also a gummo.
Yes, I do know Gummo. Yeah.
There was a mini,
I don't know many.
a sister.
Okay.
And I think I'm forgetting at least one more. But yeah, so I thought they were brothers, and I just had to reconfirm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And they actually, it's funny too because they weren't like they were in a grew up in a very pretty much all Jewish neighborhood, but there were a lot of New York is
It's
uh,
as melting a pot as
it's a
melting
yeah
pots
as
get.
any city would be, yes. And there were a lot of Italians in there, hence like Chico, he was always doing Italian voices. He grew up in it with plenty of Italian people around him. They were his friends, they were his neighbors, and um, and they all like, I don't know if you ever seen the thing that or noticed the thing that Harpo would do with his face. He had this really strange ability. He could do his face would just like puff out, and his mouth would be open. It was like it was full of air, but his mouth would be open in a round circle. And this is a story that I have to tell about him because it was to me it just cracked me up. And apparently there was a guy who worked in a window. I think he was a tailor, and every day he'd be in the window of his shop like doing his tailoring. And either that or it was a cigar store, I don't know which, but anyway, Harpo would get he was a little kid, and he would get in the window of the thing, and he I think he started out by pressing his mouth against the glass, but he would just make these faces, and everybody on the street would be laughing because the guy would be getting mad and like shaking stuff at him and telling him like, get out of here, kid. But the kid he'd do it every day, and so they all like developed these crazy things. And over plus their family was really big on music, and they all played instruments, talented talented musicians, my God. But they just developed these cool funny acts, and Harpo kept that thing going with the face. He did it a lot of times. He'd try to look like a dummy or something. He was hiding, and he'd just make that big, blown up cheek face. And people would be trying to figure out, is this a real person or a dummy? He was hysterical, just absolutely hysterical. But that was something you developed as a kid. But yeah, they were amazingly talented, just amazingly talented.
And the other thing I had to reacquaint myself with is Harpo can speak. It's
Yeah, oh
not
yes,
it's not that he's
absolutely.
mute. It's
Yeah,
just that he stays in character
yeah,
even when he wasn't in the movies, even during a lot of
yeah,
public appearances, he would
yeah. He
stay
didn't
in
want to
character and
speak.
not speak.
Yeah, yeah. It was an ongoing thing because I think people really wanted, like, it's like, let's hear his voice, and you know, he I think all the Marx Brothers were very faithful to what they did with their act. Groucho was probably the one that was probably the most like free with being off out of movies and just talking and things like that. But he still kept it up. It was always the eyebrows, the cigar, So I mean, they had their shtick, and they kept faithful to that, which I think is cool. Because a lot of like somebody like a Jerry Lewis was bending over backwards for everybody to see, oh, I'm really intelligent. I'm this charming, good-looking guy that's, when I'm not playing the buffoon. And it's like, do you really need to tell people that you made a fortune by being and he almost ruined his comedy stylings because he was so intent on playing, a character that was like smooth or something like that. And it's like, we want to see Jerry Lewis being crazy. That's what everybody loves. But
Yeah,
they,
I know that nowadays, um, actors, public relations, studios, um, they utilize the whole spectrum of the way people see them to reinforce an image, whether it's their social media account, whether it's how the roles they take, what they're like during public appearances. I did not realize that the Marx Brothers were probably one of the earliest acts that really reinforced their characters in almost everything they did.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they did, and not only that, but the other thing with the Marx Brothers, a lot of comedians, they were funny just for the sake of being funny. But the Marx and they became very popular with like college kids back in the 60s and 70s. There was a huge Marx Brothers revival. Theaters were re-showing their movies. It was a huge thing, and a lot of it was because the hippies loved the fact that these guys had like a little bit of a subversive quality to
They
them.
were they were very anarchistic.
Yes, yeah, it was, and I mean, it wasn't like they were necessarily just saying they wanted to tear everything down, but at the same time, there was a little bit of that going on, and
They wanted to break tradition. They wanted to go against social mores.
yeah, and they mocked everything.
Hmm.
That's what was so funny. They especially mock society. Now, right behind your head is Margaret Dumont, and she was in. I don't know if she was in all of the Marx Brothers movies, but
I want to say she, I mean, again, I haven't looked this up, but I want to say she was in all of them.
pretty much, pretty much. And one of the things Groucho always talked about it, he said, um, the wonderful thing about her, she was a classically trained
Opera
Broadway
singer.
actress, and
She was an opera singer.
yeah, yeah, she was talented, and they loved her because she never quite got the joke.
No, 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 that's not true. She stayed
Well,
in character as well. Just like Harpo didn't speak a lot, she
yeah,
pretended she did not get the joke,
well, I mean,
but
Groucho
she
always
knew.
described her as just not getting a lot of their humor.
Again,
But
that was all part of the act.
right, yeah, I just always heard it as that she just was kind of a little bit clueless about some of the stuff they were doing, and that was why it was so funny. But in any case, she was wonderfully talented, and she made the Marx Brothers movie. I mean, just
She
the way
was the
Groucho
perfect
would.
straight woman.
Oh my God, she was a perfect straight woman. Yeah,
Perfect.
I mean, just the way he would go on, he would making a lot these like really racy innuendos about her and and about her reputation and things like that, and she'd always be like, oh, and everything, but she'd, he'd still charm her and she'd still go along with it. There were some really terrific bits in this one, and this is the one behind me right now is one of the ones that I really enjoy, where they start looking over the contract, and
Yep.
I think, yeah, Harpo Chico is saying that he can't read it, so he's like, you read it, and then he looks at him and he goes, can you read? And he's so but they start reading. He's so Groucho's reading over the little intricacies of the, and he goes, no, I don't want that in there. So he goes, all right, well, we'll take it out. And
No,
they
the
keep
party
like
of the
just
first
tearing.
part
Yeah,
shall be known as.
yeah, yeah. And then that last bit there with the where he says, and then he goes, what's this little thing down the? He goes, oh, that's standard. That's in every. He goes, well, what is it? And he's like, well, that's the sanity clause. That's in every. And so he goes, there's no sanity clause. And but it's he goes, no, and he goes, all right, we'll take that out too. But it was so damn funny. Just that one little bit is a classic piece of comedy, and people talk about that one all the
Not
time.
not just talk about it. That has been stolen
Yeah,
and redone and
yeah,
taken time and time again. You, I am much more into animation than probably most people I know,
yeah,
including yourself. That Sanity Clause joke was done in a Batman
really.
cartoon
Yeah, yeah,
where,
yeah,
where, where the Joker has taken Robin and Robin makes the Sanity Clause joke. And Joker starts laughing so hard at it that
right.
Robin escapes.
Wow, wow, that's great. That's
So, like,
great.
and this scene behind me, the stateroom
Mm.
scene,
That is one of the funnier scenes in this movie.
this is like the crown jewel of this
Yeah,
movie.
yes, it's so damn funny. It starts out with Groucho being escorted to, and his counterpart there, the guy that's trying to like push him out of being the manager of that woman, the Margaret Dumont, and and so he's got him this little tiny stateroom. It's not even a stateroom; it's a little tiny cabin, and his trunk barely fits in the room. Whether minus, and next thing you know, he opens the trunk, and out come the other Marx Brothers, and it turns into just this wild thing. They keep inviting more and more people in. They're bringing food in. It's a crazy mess. That's a wonderful bit. I mean,
There are a total of 15 people
really,
in the room at the height of it.
boy, I'll tell you what, it even seemed like there were more. It
I
was,
know, I
it's
know.
so
Yeah,
it's so crowded, and of
it's
course,
not just funny and well done. It was so complex.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's. I mean, it is wonderfully done because it's, yeah. There was so much timing that had to go on because of all the. I mean, I don't even know how you do the bit,
Right.
with that many people. It's crazy, and yet they still managed to do a lot of their little bits in there, and there, I mean, there's Harpo with his, that was, I always loved his bit where he would somehow or other he would manage to lift his leg up and put it in someone's hand, and they'd push him away, and he'd have his leg right back up in their hand again. It's like this running bit. They all had so many. They used to talk about Curly, from the Three Stooges, and how many like different sounds he made, how many moves he made, like little. But Harpo, I mean, all the Marx Brothers, but Harpo
All
in
of them.
particular. I mean, he was so good at having these like little comedy things that he would do. And as soon as he started doing it, one of his movies, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. But yeah, they were wonderful. I mean,
But yeah, this scene was recreated in the Bob Newhart show.
really, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Cyndi Lauper recreated the scene for her music video "Girls Just Want to Have Fun."
Wow. Okay.
Seinfeld did an episode that recreated the scene. Like I could go on and on. There are so many people. This scene is so famous.
Yeah. Well, and think actually, like Woody Allen has done a ton of
Oh
things
yeah.
in a bunch of his movies. He's either done like tributes to some of the songs that they did in different ones. I just different bits. He was heavily influenced by them. So I mean, it's it goes without saying that comedians from from all different generations to this day just still they love them and they love their bits. And how can you not? Because I mean it's tried and true stuff that to this day still works. But yeah, I love them. I grew up on them myself, and I got to the point where now that's another thing. The scene that you just popped up, that
Yep.
piano thing, they were such talented musicians.
Oh my God.
Him with the finger work on he didn't play like conventionally. He had this like really, like off way of playing piano, and it was you just looked at it and it was like, wow, this guy's good. But no, real talented
Yeah,
musicians.
this reminded me like how common music was in older movies, in the movies of the
Yeah,
30s.
yeah,
It was just an integral part.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it was truly central, and it's with the Marx Brothers. And I think probably like when I was younger, I didn't appreciate it as much, but they'd be like, okay, this is the musical bit that they're gonna do because one of them would play the harp, one of
Mhm.
them would play the piano. Groucho sometimes played several instruments. He could definitely play piano, but I like, and that's another thing. I actually looked up because Harpo playing the harp. I looked up like how hard is it to play the harp because I was thinking to myself that always, and I guess like if you want to learn an instrument, like just to learn like the basics, it's actually fairly easy to pick up.
Mhm.
But like they were saying, it's probably easier to pick up than the guitar.
Huh.
But they said if you want to be good at it, then it starts getting very complex, and he was quite good at it. So
I mean, that's the thing. It seems so effortless to them that they could be doing jokes. They could
yeah,
be doing bits while playing these instruments.
yeah, yeah, it was crazy. And sometimes they would even make an instrument out of like something that didn't even look like an instrument. They just did incredible. And I mean, I don't know, could take the simplest bits. This was the scene of Groucho there with the they're in the middle of the opera night, and he comes out. They're just like completely destroying because they're trying to push aside the male singer that's the bad guy, and introduce their guy. And Groucho comes out with a basket full of peanuts, and he's get your peanuts, and all these like real, and again mocking the rich. They're all sitting there and they're real, uptight and stuffy, and he's throwing bags of peanuts out to the audience, and like I said, just incredible chaos surrounding the Marx Brothers. But and of course there's Harpo with the uh, throwing the conductor's timing off. No,
Yeah, I
great
mean,
stuff.
this was called Night at the Opera, and it delivered. Like so many people in the cast were actually operatically trained. They were actual opera singers.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny. So as part of the plot of the movie, the bad guy,
Yeah.
the opera star, is
Right.
supposed to be a star tenor. And the other guy, the stagehand that's the love interest, is also a tenor, and they want this guy to take the star's place.
Right.
Well, that guy is an operatic tenor, and he sold several albums as a
Wow.
result of this movie.
Wow. Oh, nice.
The guy that was the evil star tenor, he was the only guy whose singing was dubbed.
Oh, really? Really?
because while he was operatically trained, he's a baritone.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
so he couldn't actually do the role of a tenor.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, they did it well because I didn't know that or even notice that. But yeah, the such clever bits that they had in this one, and it's hard, when you talk about like what's the best Marx Brothers movie. Um, Man, I love so many of them and love them dearly. That well, how do you say that? This
Lisa was asking me, like, so why did you choose this movie? I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're
Yeah,
all really good. I didn't know what to choose.
yeah.
I sort of just picked this at random.
It's certainly a good one for us to start with because I definitely want to do more of them. And I there's so many that I love. Like coconuts is one of my favorite
Mm.
ones, and I think I was talking about this with you, but probably one of the ones that's not as well regarded is that one room service, and I actually think that's pretty darn funny. It's got a young Lucille Ball in it. It's
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it probably isn't as well known, and it's probably I know it's not as well regarded, but my God, so many of I can just think of bits in each one of their movies, like A Day at the Races, and I mean, just go on and on. There's these bits, Duck Soup, uh, and the mocking of like the dictators and the you know what was going on with Nazi Germany and stuff. They did a great job of mocking people that were, especially people that were like bad people or evil people of the times and things like that. They were terrific, and they were funny because a lot of people try to like do jokes, whether it's a political figure or whether it's just something going on in society or whatever. But they were funny. They actually told jokes that were funny, and that's where they won people over because if you make it funny, then then people are going to enjoy it and they're going to laugh. And I think their vaudeville days.
They are a direct connection to vaudeville.
Yeah, yeah, they brought vaudeville to the movies. I
Mhm.
mean, you people that are alive today, and even myself, I mean, vaudeville was over I'm 65, and I never saw anything with vaudeville. I've seen I've seen films that had like bits and pieces, but think of all the people that came out of vaudeville. That was W.C. Fields. I mean, that guy was, people know him like for his whole little shtick with you know, uh, when he did movies and walk around with a cane and just drink and things like that. But he had so many things that the guy was a great juggler, for one thing. Yeah, he could juggle like you wouldn't believe, and he was very acrobatic. And the Marx Brothers are extremely acrobatic.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, nobody was doing their stunts. They were
they were all
doing
doing their own stunts.
yeah, crazy stuff. Like, and yeah, I would give it up for someone like Harold Lloyd or something like that. They all did their own stunts. But the Marx Brothers, they were pioneers.
Here's how vaudeville they were. When this script was written, when the bits were written, before they filmed a single second of footage, before they filmed a single frame,
Yeah.
they took their show on the road. They tested their jokes, they tested their skits
Yeah.
by doing them live. And in fact, one of the places they did them, Portland, Oregon.
Really?
Yeah, they
Nice.
did a tour of the
Nice.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, your hometown.
You know it. And so when they filmed, they had to re-edit this movie several times to make it match the pace of their live routine
Wow. Yeah, I did not
because
know.
because it wasn't as funny on film. They had to make it match the live
Yeah.
presentation.
Well, and that's another thing is there's so much ad-libbing with them too. I mean, they would go
Mhm.
off script, which is probably one of the things that would throw someone like a classically trained actress like Margaret Dumont because she was used to structure and they were chaos, and she handled it beautifully.
Oh
But
yeah.
I mean, she never really she seemed flustered, but only flustered as the character would be, not flustered that she was, losing her timing or something like that. She managed to flow with them. So again, you do have to give Margaret Dumont a lot of credit. If she wasn't that straight person in the movie, and there again, the scene behind you, that is a hysterical scene with those. They were like supposed to be like three little Mussolinis or something that
These
were.
guys were the aviators. That's what
Yes,
they're.
yeah, they knocked out the real ones and stole their
Knocked them
clothing.
out, tied them up,
They cut their
gagged them.
beard. They cut their beards off. So so and again, they didn't hurt them. It's still they're still those lovable rogues because you just have to laugh at what they were doing, and they fool all these people until that one detective starts starts looking too closely at what's going on, and then of course the beard starts coming off when Harpo's drinking. He keeps drinking water, so he doesn't. And yeah, Groucho comes out with that great line about he's going to be fine as long as the water all. But he just yeah, he just kept drinking. But yeah, like I said, it's great routines in this. Terrific, terrific movie.
I will point out that in retrospect, I'm
Yeah,
a little disappointed I chose this movie. And the reason why is because this was their first movie with MGM.
yeah,
This is the first movie they actually tried to follow a plot.
yeah.
But also, this was their first movie without Zeppo.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And evidently, the director hated ad-libbing,
Wow, wow.
hated it. And so there was
That's what
somewhat
that's
of
what
an
they're about.
artistic conflict there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's they're about ad-libbing and the craziness because a lot of times, and it would drive directors nuts sometimes, but they would come out and they would just like they were supposed to be doing something in a scene, and they would just come out and do like a bunch of crazy stuff and it was like nobody planned for this, or they would just take it like way further. But there's so many scenes in different Marx Brothers movies. One of my favorite scenes with Groucho is the mirror one, which the other Marx Brothers are actually doing the other side of the mirror, which shows their timing because it's a wonderful bit where he's walking in front of a mirror and he's doing this little side thing, and another Marx Brother is on the other side because there's no mirror there. They break the mirror, and it's just and so he like runs off out of the and he puts on a hat and comes out and one of the other ones has a hat, but it's a different hat. And it's just they keep doing stuff back and forth in the mirror, and it's a wonderful bit. And like I said, every movie has certain bits. This one, of course, had that. I love the contract one, and yes, I love I love the scene with the scene with
The
the
state's room.
yeah. And, I mean, how can you not love that? It's Groucho just keeps opening the door and somebody says, "I'm here to clean" or something like that. He goes, "Well, come on in if you can if you can find a spot," and it's
Well,
but
even when he goes out in the hall to order food,
oh yeah, yeah.
I'd like some roast beef. I'd like rare, medium, well done, and overdone.
Yeah, and a hard boiled egg.
Boop,
And
boop.
yeah, make that too
Two-
hard boiled. And then when the food finally comes in, you see the scene that's behind me, which Harpo climbs right. He body surfs, probably the first body surf that anybody had ever done.
That's ever captured on film.
Yes, at least captured on film. Yeah, but yeah, he body surfs the tray because he wants the food so bad.
I I really miss films like this because it's so early. You can see how they're transitioning from live acting, from
Yeah,
actually acting in person on stage. And so the challenge for the filmmaker was the camera had to follow the comedian. The camera had to follow the action. Whereas nowadays, I feel the camera is king and the actors have to conform to the scene for the camera.
Well, I mean, you've got so many more options now too, though, because once they developed Steadicam, where they actually could carry cameras around, and they became smaller and more portable. I mean, Steadicam changed everything because instead of having the jitter, you would I mean, there's been so many different techniques of mounting it, on something that you could pull it along on a dolly and follow the actors. Now, I mean, you can have people just running down a hallway and there's no jitter because it's Steadicam, and that's gotten real sophisticated now. But yeah, the fact that they were able to do some of the stuff that they could do, it speaks a lot to the film techniques that they were making use of. I mean, we're seeing the scene behind me right now and the scene behind you. Those were kind of static scenes, but that's not what's going on in a Marx Brothers movie. They're moving constantly, and the
Oh
cameras,
yeah.
yeah, the camera's got to work with them. So
I,
yeah,
I gotta say, rewatching this, I would even say, we've just recently saw that Jackie Chan film. I think Jackie Chan took from the Marx Brothers.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. I mean, you think about people, what they watched when they were younger, or what was available to them. And I mean, for myself growing up, I grew up with it was basically three channels before cable. When I was a kid, it was all. I mean, you did too. It was
Hmm.
until cable came out. I mean, I still remember when cable actually started like really spreading in different neighborhoods, and it was like, yes, cable. All these hundreds of, which there isn't hundreds of channels. I don't even have cable now. I just stream, but and probably most people are streaming now, unless
It amazes me if anyone has cable these days. I'm
I
like,
th-
what?
I think probably the big ones that do are probably like sports fans. They have sports packages.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, because it used to be like that you'd buy movie packages like the Cinemax, HBO, Showtime, all these different ones. But I mean, you can get all that with streaming, and there's so much available for streaming. A
Hmm.
lot of it free,
I
and
mean, nowadays, I'm pretty sure. Again, I'm not a sports fan, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure like NFL, NBA sell streaming packages as well.
oh, they do. They do, but usually it's tied with some kind of cable package. But then again, like things are moving, maybe not for the better. Um, I
For
know
the
like
different.
Netflix is picking up sports events, which to me kind of I feel like it's a bad move. It's a really bad
Yeah,
move because
Netflix has been doing a series of bad moves. I've
yeah.
actually left Netflix.
Well, I'll tell you what, yeah, because they raise prices like you wouldn't believe. They've
Prices,
also
ads.
well, and listen, let's face it, there's a lot of sharing and I know the services hate it when people share, but sometimes it's the only way that people can afford. You
Mhm.
you get you maybe have two or three people, and one subscribes to another, and so on and so forth, and they might share between two or three people, and they get greedy and they cut down on, and yes, they're losing some revenue but they're also the fact that people will share, and it's like, okay, you get Netflix, I'll get this or that, whatever. Um, it sometimes makes the difference of someone actually being able to do it or want to do it, because if they can only have Netflix, they might say, well, it's not worth it to me, and there's so many free services that if you take away the ability to share a little bit, then you're kind of like really ruining the value of some of those ones. And they've all gotten. I get it. It's expensive, costs money to bring the material, but at the same time, it's like Netflix has just gotten like really bad between
Mhm.
everything. I really feel they're greedy. And my God, like you probably didn't watch it, but I got that stupid, awful Tyson fight. The
Oh yeah,
poor
there
guy. I
was
felt
no way in hell I was going to watch that.
well. I did it just because I mean I love Tyson, and but I was actually worried for the guy because he's so old. I mean the guy was like whether he was 59 or 60. I'm 65. you know, I used to say when I was younger and I was young and strong, I used to say, well, I'd get in the ring with a guy like Tyson, just let him beat me up and just try to cover up and collect the money. But when you get to be 59, 60, and you try to get into a ring with even a bad boxer, which that idiot is a bad boxer, but he's not. He really isn't. I mean, he's fooled people into thinking he's good. Any good professional fighter would take his ass out, and he like Tyson was just Tyson had nothing left in the tank, and but Netflix had the fight, and Netflix they couldn't even stream it. It kept cutting out on me. It was awful. And it was like, really, you want me to subscribe to Netflix? Forget it. It's and to watch football games on Netflix when they can't even stream. They're gonna stream the Super Bowl when they can't even stream a fight, which I'm sure there's gonna be less people watching that old Tyson fight than they would be watching the Super Bowl. I mean, come on. But back to this, like I said, um, wonderful movie. I don't regret that you picked this one for the first one. We'll do more for
Oh,
sure.
we'll do more. It's just that I love their madcap, zany, like speed of light humor.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's just so rapid fire, and they seemed a little stifled on this one.
yeah. To a degree, yeah they did. They're probably a little bit less frenetic and
Mm.
madcap crazy. Yeah, you are right.
I mean, still great, phenomenal
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I mean, I think a movie like, say, again, one of my favorites, but the Coconuts, or Pay a Day at the, I mean, come on, I could just keep naming them.
Right,
It's,
like I'm like thinking about Duck Soup.
oh my God, yeah, yeah. They're all just so darn good. And,
And no
but
one knows them anymore. Like I can't tell you the number of people that I've mentioned, like, oh yeah, we're doing a Marx Brothers movie this week. And the response is, huh, I've never seen a Marx Brothers movie. And
wow,
I'm like,
wow. Yeah. See, I feel that's a crime to have never seen a Marx Brothers movie. And I get it. Like if you're not like somebody that watches a lot of older film, then maybe it's going to be a little bit of a harder sell. But if you start, I mean, my God, I used to marathon them like around New Year's and things like that, and it was so fun just to watch one after the other. And yeah,
it's funny because every time we've gone through holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, I've always considered choosing one because to me, even though these don't deal with anything holiday related, they will always be holiday movies to me.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, some of their some of their songs, um, the when Groucho's the dean and he's singing "I'm Against It." That is probably one of the funnier songs that I've ever heard. It's whatever it is, I'm against it. It's just it's a wonderful routine and a song at the same time. And that's another thing. Hippies love that. He was a total anarchy in the song because he's basically saying I'm against everything. But no, like I said, they were so lovable. That's the best way for me to describe. They had a they had a rogue quality that even though they could be the bad guy, but they weren't because they'd always help somebody too. If there was somebody that was downtrodden or needed help, the Marx Brothers were going to join in and help them
That
out.
that being said, there are certain movies and certain scenes where they're prone to random acts of violence.
Oh, that's definitely.
Where they'll
Well,
knock some guy out that they don't even know for no reason.
well, this one here, the bad guy, that's one of the funnier routines. They they keep knocking out the bad singer guy. They keep hitting him over the head. Harpo actually is the one that's doing it, and and they actually revive him. Well, actually, I know it might have been Chico that did it, but they actually revive him, and when he comes to, they knock him out again. It's like, wow, this guy's got brain damage. But no, just like I said, they're still they're lovable rogues though, you know. It's like how do you not like what they're doing? How do you not like who they are? It's just, you know, terrific comedy. I
Yeah,
don't know.
they're such performers. Like, you know, there are some great actors these days, but they're great actors and they want to act. They don't necessarily want to entertain. And the Marx Brothers, they could dance, they could sing, they could
Yeah,
tell jokes. They wanted to entertain.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Groucho actually in almost every movie he does some kind of little dance routine. It's almost like he's going into a tap dance or something like. He's always got these crazy. He was very acrobat. I mean, all of them were very acrobatic, but he certainly was. And the expressions with Groucho's face, that whole thing with the mustache and the eyebrows, because somebody objected. He had a mustache, and somebody objected to the fact that he was wearing, and he went and got a marker or whatever he got, black, coal black or whatever it was, and he just made this like really like exaggerated mustache. And it's like, yeah, don't tell me what to do. Yeah. So, but and that became that became his big routine was the the mustache and the eyebrows. But he was so that's another thing I don't think I appreciated you bet your life when
I've
people
never seen that.
you
I
know
know
I
of it. I've never seen it.
go on YouTube and do some. There's one routine, look it up, but there's one routine where this guy comes on, and they always had like they were just regular people from all walks of life. And Groucho is he's sitting there, and this guy comes out, and I think that's the one where there's also like this really pretty girl that comes out. She was like a beauty queen or something, and she comes out, and there are all the guys on the set are all going like, "Oh wow!" Everybody's like, but the guy that they brought out at the same time, he's got these like bug eyes, like, and they're real. And Groucho keeps looking at him like every time. And and he's asking the guy questions, and his questions are so funny, and the rapport that he had with just regular people who come on there, and every once in a while I'd look out of the camera and just like ah, you know, and draw the audience in with him on whatever joke he was telling. But that was a terrific show,
I
and
will try to include a link to some
yeah,
of You Bet Your Life when we put this up.
yeah, look up like some of the like I said, try to find that routine I'm talking about because that would be a great link. It's just like it just showcases his talent of how funny and how quick he could be. It's he was very sharp, but
Yeah,
no,
I lament that like people are starting to not know the Marx Brothers.
I
And
know.
I want to do what I can to change that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think they're probably pretty well known with film buffs. But for people like everyday people that go to the movies, um, I fear that about a lot of different movies because like the silence, and we've yet to do a silent movie,
We
which
have,
I definitely want to pick a silent. Um, so that's definitely coming this year. But yeah, the Marx Brothers they're just one of the they're one of the ones that people need to know and appreciate because comedy is it's like being a fan of say the Rolling Stones and not knowing Muddy Waters,
yeah,
because it's like, well, without Muddy Waters, there wouldn't be the Rolling Stones, you know, and without the Marx Brothers, there, you wouldn't have so many other comedy movies because people, if you start watching these movies, like you said, people stole bits from them, and or they just imitate like different styles that they were using on a regular basis. So I mean, uh, again, this scene here, you were just saying it's been copied, and we know it's been copied because we see it. It pops up, but they're just like I said, immensely talented, and to think that yes, they were brothers, and I mean the family must have been. Can you imagine like
Oh, I can't imagine the family.
the family must have been incredibly funny to be around, and I'm sure like just the mute because from what I've heard, the whole family was very musical, um, and the dinner table had to be funny because my God, you couldn't sit around with these guys without having a lot of craziness going on. Um, Now I did put up, I don't know if you saw it, but I did put up a little short. Um,
I saw it as soon as because I put up a short today.
oh, cool. I'm glad. No, I'm glad you did because that what this was not meant to. I like you doing the shorts, but I had that story, and I won't need to repeat it if people will go and look at the short. But yeah, that story that was a story that I always thought was hysterical, and there's certain ones with different members of the Marx Brothers that I've heard over the years. They just crack me up, and they're so typical of who and what they were like. But that one certainly was one of them, and it just like I said, it cracked me up. And there's a bunch of other ones. I should do another one sometime because I know like two or three more funny stories about them. But yeah, they were just as humorous off camera as they were on. And people that knew them and hung out with them, they loved being around them. They were just so darn funny. There's a great Marx Brothers book. I might have given it to Alicia, that I had owned, and it was Groucho telling all these stories about his brothers and him, and just stuff about their movies, and it's a terrific book. I'm gonna have to see if I can look through Alicia's copy because I'm pretty sure I gave it to her, but and I'm glad she has it because she's a huge Marx Brothers fan. But yeah, like I said, their stories are endless. They're just so funny.
So on that note, I'm not sure I have that much more to say other than as no argument, two thumbs up.
Oh
And
my God.
if I can bring awareness of the Marx Brothers to anyone that hasn't seen them, I
Yep.
want to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I feel the same. And again, like I said, um, it, it's it's one of probably my favorite comedy acts, and they're probably one of my favorite types of movies to if I want to sit down and watch something that's really going to make me laugh, that is actually one of the ones I'm going to go to.
This is a guaranteed laugh.
Yes, absolutely. So if you haven't tried, for the people watching, if there's if you guys are still hanging with us, I always have to make that joke. But if you are someone that's never seen a Marx Brothers movie, you owe it to yourself to check them out. You could start with this one, but there's so many good ones.
So many.
You almost wouldn't go wrong with. I mean, the coconuts, duck soup, day at the races. They're all good. They're all great, I should say. Just funny stuff. And if you're somebody that's not necessarily used to older movies, try to get yourself through a couple of them to learn like who and what they were like and what they did, and I guarantee you they'll grow on you. If you've got a sense of comedy and you love good comedy, they will grow on you. So please, if you would, uh, check them out. Please leave a like and subscribe. I give this one again, uh,
As
solid two
many
thumbs
thumbs as
up.
we could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's
it's your choice next. Do you have your next movie?
I actually do. I actually do know what I'm gonna pick. And again, I torture myself, and I'm sure you do too.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just like,
totally.
well, it's just like you said, you picked this one, and then you said, well, maybe I should have picked a different Marx Brothers movie. Um, I was really going back and forth over two or three different ones. There's a movie that I've seen, and it's I think it's got a little bit of a mixed reaction. There were problems in filming and with um, the particular director, which we can go into when we're showcasing it. Um, but I still think it came out really terrific, and I think it's a wonderful movie, and it's got a great plot. Um, it's called "Don't Worry, Darling." Have
Okay,
you?
I've heard of it.
Okay, and
It's a recent one, right?
it's pretty recent. It's probably within 5 years, 3 4 years. Um, but Florence Pugh is one of the lead actors in it. It's oh, I can't think of the dude's name. He's very famous, but it's got a few name actors and actresses in it. And there were problems with the filming, and people criticize the director, which again we can go into that when we review it. But it some people thought it was a mess. I thought it was wonderfully done. It's got a great plot. It's weird, not like David Lynch weird, but it's still got some like it's more like Stepford Wives weird because it's got essence of Stepford Wives, and that's all I'll say. But anybody who hasn't seen the movie, this is your opportunity. Watch the movie and come back
Yeah,
and
I
listen
haven't
to
seen it
us.
yet, so
Yeah. So, well, that's good if you haven't seen it because I'm introducing you to one you haven't seen. So, I think it's something that will draw you in, whether or not you like it. You'll have to tell me next week. But Don't Worry, Darling is the movie, and by the way, I do own that on my Voodoo. So check it out, and so we got for everyone there at home again. Please, if you would, leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for watching.
yeah, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. Uh, and please, if you would, comment, uh, tell us what you want to see. Because, as much as we torture ourselves trying to, I'm sure there's people out there, if you are tuning in and coming back, I'm sure there's people that are thinking, well, why don't they do this movie or that movie? So, I mean, we have had people recommend movies and we've done them. So I think we've done everything that's been recommended so far. So this one's I think is a good one. Um, it remains to be seen whether Dom, if you like it. Um,
I'm
and
looking forward to it.
yeah, I think it's a fun watch, and I'm curious what you and Lisa will think of it. So check it out. But that sums it all up, folks. And Dom, great movie pick. A Night at the Opera was a fun watch again for me to revisit it. So thank you.
Great talking to you as always about movies.
Absolutely. So see you guys next week.
Next
With that,
week.